Testing. Perfect. Folks, welcome back to the stream here. This is Brad Mustaine with Haggle Hustle with Negotiation Nation. Right here, we negotiate car deals. And I got to mute this. Welcome back to the stream. This is Brad Mustaine with Negotiation Nation. I just wanted to quickly do a stream about how car payments and how they work. So I just want to show you some examples here. And this is for anybody who is looking to purchase any kind of vehicle and just the proper way to do it so that way you're not shooting yourself in the foot. The first two questions you need to ask yourself are, can you afford the vehicle, right? Like, and the truth is just because you can afford the payment doesn't mean that you can afford the car. If you can afford a $400 payment, that's great, but it's best to be able to pay that off within a 4 or 5 year loan, if not shorter, if you can. Right? The shorter you pay, the shorter the term, the better the interest rate, and the quicker you're paying off the depreciation of the vehicle. It's much better to do everything correctly. Nowadays, people are doing 72, 75, 84 month loans on vehicles, costing them a lot more money, not just in total price of the vehicle. Usually, because you're buying a more expensive car, you're also paying more on interest. You're paying more for back end products, everything along those lines. So, let's briefly show you a way to be able to make sure you can afford your vehicle. So, people ask me a lot of times, what's the best way to buy a car? The best way to buy a car is to do short-term payments and term payments and make sure that you're doing it in a way where you can pay off the vehicle quickly. Um, what I mean by short-term payments is it's okay to do a long term, right? Like you can do a term that's uh, 84 months, let's say, or some credit unions are even doing 96 months now. So you can literally do a 9 year loan or a 8 year loan on a car without any issues at this point. That's how crazy it's gotten. So let's take a look here and just look at some vehicles that are out that are available now, and just to kind of show you um, how to figure out whether it's a vehicle that you can afford. Bear with me 1 second. All right, puppy, I'm coming. I'm gonna grab a water. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so we're finding vehicles that you could purchase. Let's see. Let's start with a Toyota. If you're buying a pre-owned vehicle, Toyotas and Lexus are usually your best options as far as ones that don't depreciate and ones that will last throughout the entire loan. Honda and Acura would be also very good. Subaru is very good. Subaru, you got to really stay up on the maintenance. If you did that, then they should be good. But you really want to have a mechanic look over a Subaru before you buy one. I've seen them go out early on if they aren't properly maintained. So here, let's pull up a Toyota here. This one is a Toyota Avalon. There we go. Okay, so we're looking at this 2016 Toyota Avalon Limited. Hopefully, it will pop up on the screen here for us. Um, So we have it up here. So let's take a look, take a gander here at just a couple of things. What I want to do is just show you briefly here how to kind of overlook this a deal like this. So right here, 2016 Toyota Avalon limited package. So limited is going to be the leather package. Everything's nice on the vehicle. This particular one will be a full size sedan, so you could fit all a lot of passengers in this one. You could take long trips in it. It's a touring car essentially. So it's one that if you have a family of, say, a family of four, you do a lot of traveling. You don't want to spend a lot of money on a vehicle, so you don't want to buy an SUV. This one here would have 68,000 or 88,000 miles on it, and they're selling this one for 16 or $17,000. So let's go ahead and look at so $17,000 car. Let's take a look at what this Toyota Avalon would cost. All right, so here we got the car payment calculator loaded up right now. And so this Toyota Avalon 2016, now we'll change that here. 2016 Toyota Avalon with 88K limited. Okay, so this one it was a they're asking 17,000 for this car. And let's just say that you're going to just buy this car. Okay, you're not going to trade in a car. You're just buying another extra car for your fleet. So this one here, where you'd have about $600. Let's just say any dealer fees, 3% sales tax in North Carolina that varies on based on state. But this will show you here what a 60-month loan would look like when you borrow that kind of money. So when you borrow $17,000, it's going to cost you $358 per month to be able to buy this car. Now, nice thing is that you're doing a 68-month on this one. Okay. Now, if you can afford a $350 payment, you can afford this car. It's only got 88,000 miles on it. Like you really don't have to put a lot of back end products on a car that doesn't depreciate. All the depreciation's out of it now, right? So if you were to trade in your vehicle or I'm sorry, add to your fleet and just add this $17,000 Avalon with 88 on it. You can see it's over. You can rent them for well over 200, 300,000 miles. There's tremendous value. So the uh, when you see the how the payments break down, it will show you. Okay, so total amount financed with everything right here would be $18,110. So you take a look at that. You take a look at that payment. What's it involved in that payment? Then you can look at what the interest is on this one. All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. This is Brad with Negotiation Nation. I just wanted to thank all my clients for being so helpful and helping me get more clients. We're saving a lot of people a lot of money. We did a brand new Honda CRV with the hybrid. We got that client close to $3,000 off of sticker price, where most dealerships are charging over sticker on that car. So we did that. We found a really nice Toyota uh, Echo for another client. So that one's about a it was like a 3 grand car, but it's the ultimate $3,000 car, right? I mean, you really can't ask for a better thing than something that's just cheap to drive for a client that doesn't have a lot of money. So, we actually those are just two examples. We saved a client $90 on a lease on a $90 a month on a lease for a brand new Sierra pickup truck. So we were able to do that as well. So use us. We will get you the most money for your vehicle on a trade in, or we can get the most money for it if you want me to consign it for you. If you want me to help negotiate your car deal for you, then let me know. I'll be more than glad to help. If you don't have time, you don't want to spend a bunch of time calling dealerships to get the best deal. Let me do that for you because I promise you it'll save you a bundle. So anyway, let's talk a little bit how car payments work. Okay, car payments in today's world are a lot different than they were, say, when you if you started buying cars 30 or 40 years ago. You'll realize that those loans were 2 or 3 year loans typically. A 4 year loan was almost unheard of at one time, right? Payments were lower, cars were cheaper. Now cars are, in some cases, as much as a house, right? I mean, you can go buy an Escalade and it's over $100,000. So that's just one example of a car at over $100,000. There's a bundle of them. So when you consider what the total cost of a vehicle is and how short of a time you have to pay it off, you can see how these payments and how these things can work against you. And there's just you watch Usage Channel, you watch a bunch of other channels that where they have people calling in with ridiculous car payments and negative equity. It's mainly because they didn't do their due diligence and they signed paperwork they shouldn't have. They wind up with a bunch of negative equity on a car. They can't get out of it, barely runs. So we're going to show you some tips on how much, like basically on how to buy a car, like what to look at as far as we're looking at the money side of it. How much car can I afford? All right, so let's take a look here and pull up our car payment calculator here. Right now, we're going to pull up a vehicle that will that we can just pull up an example of a car here that all right, so here we have a we're going to look this one up. Okay, so this is a 2022 uh QX60 Infinity. So this is their SUV right here. um this is their SUV. It's a 2022 with 50,000 miles on it, and they're asking about $37,000 for this car. Okay. So, these are vehicles that will run fairly good for you for 150 to 200,000 miles, as long as you do the right proper maintenance on the vehicle. So let's go back to our payment calculator here and see if we can't program some of these digits in here. So here we're going to go ahead and pull up our payment calculator. Now, like I say, this is a free application on any phone, right? There's pick one that works for you, but the key is to know what your interest rates are. So before you go car shopping, all you do is call your bank and let ask them what your interest rates would be when you have prime credit. And if you don't have prime credit, then you got to figure out what your credit score is. And interest rates will vary based upon that. And prime credit being a seven, we're buying a car with, for a lot of companies, it's 700 or better. For some companies, it's 650 or better. It just depends. So let's take a look at just how these payments would break down here on that 2022 Infinity QX60. So on a 60-month loan at 7% interest and a 3% rate tax rate, you're looking at $766 over 60 months. Now, what do you say, Brad? I can't afford a 760 car payment. Well, then you shouldn't buy this car, because if you have to finance it longer um, than 60 months to be able to afford it, you'll never be able to outrun the depreciation on the car. And I'll expand on that here. When you see this, watch what happens when I change this to, say you can afford I can't afford that. I can afford a seven. I mean, my budget's like 700 or 690. Well, I can roll this out for another 72 months. But right now, you can see right now, if I'm going to make over 60 months, I'm going to pay $7,000 in interest over the course of the loan if I make minimum payments. So really, you're paying $46,000 for this. So let's go ahead and calculate what happens then. So remember, we're actually at $7,000 in interest, but since we're going to borrow the money longer, watch what happens. 659 payments, so that's more within our budget. But look what happens. Now we're spending more on interest. We're basically making the payment a little bit less. But then what happens when you want to trade out of the car in 3 years? Well, let's see what happens. View payment schedule. So in 3 years, that's going to be a 2019, would be what a 2019 is now. It'll be 6 years old in 3 years. So with that, we would be we're right now we paid quite a bit of interest, and we're still going to owe 21,373 on that. So let's say 21,300 or 21,500. You're still going to owe that on the car, right? So we can look and see what we think the value might be on that vehicle by looking at one that's 3 years older than this one. So let's see if we can't pull up one that's on our. See if we can't pull up another one here in a 20. Remember that we're using Visor. The We're using the Visor uh, application, which is an excellent application to be able to really narrow down what kind of vehicle you're looking for. I'll do a video on this one too, so you can. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at narrow this down to just 2019s. So just trying to get an idea 3 years from now where you're going to be on this one. Just going to do 2019 only. And the cool part about Visor is, check it out. You can just click on 2019, and there you are. You got it down to that, and then a Lux package. So we're going to narrow it down to that. Okay, so here's where you would be on one if you were going to purchase one. That's a 2019. So by the time you're trading this one in, this one has 87,000 miles on it. Let's say you put 12,000 miles on it a year. This is kind of what you're looking at. This one here is selling for about $20,000, and it was listed 1 day ago. 1 day ago. So that's going to kind of be the higher end of what they're going to be asking for this vehicle. So when you go in and trade in your QX60 Lux in 3 years, if you owe $21,000 on it and they offer you 17, or say you owe $21,000 and they offer you $17,000 on it, or $16,000 on it, you're going to have a ton of negative equity, right? You got 6 grand worth of negative. That's why it's important to do a short-term loan and pay more on top of your car payments. So yeah, if you can't afford $760 a month, you can't afford um, that 16, or I'm sorry, that 22 that we looked at previously. So let's okay. So let's go ahead and pop our calculator back up here. All right. So let's just review this again here. So after 3 years, you want to trade out of this car, and say it's a 17 or 18, $17,000 car. When you do 72 months, you still owe, or a 6 year loan, which is 72 months, you still owe 21,300 on this car. Now, when I go to a 60-month loan, I have a higher payment, but when I make that payment and view the payment schedule, I'm looking at 36 months, 17,000. So you see, that's kind of the point right there, right? Like you don't want to try to roll in a bunch of negative equity on your next loan. That's going to make it hard for you to buy a car. And then after a while, you're basically adding more and more and more money to the car. So if you can't afford it over 60 months, you can't afford it. Now that being said, one of the things that people do is they say, okay, well, I can't afford um, you know, 760 a month. I can do six, but I can definitely pay more on my car payment most months. Well, then that's not a bad idea, right? Like, if you make bigger payments than what your scheduled payment is, you're going to obviously be in a much better position when it comes time uh, to when it comes time to make your car payment. So, and when it comes time to trade your car in. So when you're looking at these first payments here, you can see that here we have uh, the principal, what's being paid, and then the interest and what's being paid. So the first payments are going to be the ones that are going to have the most interest. And as you go along, your interest gets less and your principal gets more. And that's why rate is so important when you're buying a car or anything because interest is going to be a part of what you're going to pay. And the lower the rate, the lower your payment, the lower you pay the bank. I mean, it's just that simple. So right here, this at the 60-month term, that's going to make it very affordable. All right. So the hard part is let's say that you buy this you buy this Infinity and say, man, I can't afford the 760 car payment. I can only afford a payment around 500. So dealerships will do everything they can to get you at 500, right? So then what they'll do is they'll put you in it for 84 months. All right. And usually they'll add a point to the rate to do that. But let's just say, okay, so we're at 584 for that. So now we went from 650 all the way to below um, 580. So you're about 200 bucks lower on a car payment. It seems like, man, I can afford this. I had no problem. But look at what else is happening here. You're paying another $10,000 in interest to buy this car. And you need to trade out of it in 3 years, which is the average. Look what happens. You haven't paid off anything on this car. You still owe $24,000 on a car that you owe, that's worth 17. So when you're in that position there, you're about 7 grand tip. You're not going to go in and sign and drive on your next car. You're going to have money down because banks will only loan 110, 115, maybe 120% of the value of the vehicle. So, if the vehicle, whatever and that's usually going to be close to what they're selling pre-owned vehicles for, is the NADA price. It's going to be close to that. I mean, and so you're not going to be able to bury 5 grand in negative equity on or 7 grand of negative equity on most used cars. And if you could bury 7 grand in negative equity on that used car, you probably shouldn't. If you need to do that, let me know and I'll look for one for you. But it's really hard to do. So that's why how customers get trapped is that they wind up buying vehicles and I want to get out of this car, and then they sign an 84-month loan to keep the payment low. And look, now they owe all this money on the car. And it's a never ending cycle. So, if you didn't have any money down for this car, good chance you may not have any money down for the next car. Now, should you do a 7-year loan? Yeah, you should. Let's say that you can afford 760 most months and even pay more than 760 in most months. I would say go ahead and buy that vehicle and do it on an 84-month loan because you're going to get a little bit lower payment then it's like, but you have to be aware that like this 584 payment is for the month when you go on vacation or December for Christmas time. Those are the months where maybe you want to make the minimum payment and not pay extra on it. I would understand that. But yeah, you wouldn't want to be making minimum payments on that every month. So you got to look at what you can afford. And generally, 4 to 5 years is what you can afford. And so that's how you got to calculate your car payments. Another thing that they're going to do to you too when you do an 84-month loan is they're going to say, okay, we got you under 600 on the payments. But then they're going to remind you that you have an 84-month loan on this vehicle, and that you're going to need to add back end products like gap insurance in case you get into an accident. What will happen is that gap insurance would basically cover your vehicle, the difference in what you owe on the vehicle compared to what the vehicle's worth. So, for example, if you've been making minimum payments on this uh, uh, particular QX60, you're going to notice here that if you wreck it the third year, you've been making minimum payments. You would notice that you still owe 20, 24,003 on the vehicle, and the vehicle's only going to be worth 17. So the gap insurance is going to make up what the insurance company doesn't get. But hey, guess what? If you can do it, if you can afford it over a 60-month span, you don't need it because it's going to you're going to be paying off the vehicle as quickly as it depreciates. So you're not going to have that gap insurance. So that's 1,200 or 50 to 1,000 to 1,500 bucks saved on your payment. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to add things like that. Plus, they're going to say, "Hey, what if the engine goes? What if the transmission goes?" That's something that can happen. You have a vehicle as long as as 8 years. So next thing you know, you're 3 grand in on a warranty. So you get a 3 year warranty and you get gap insurance. Look what happens when we add those products to the uh, what happens when we add these fees to the total. It would say that's another $4,500, but watch what happens to your car payment. And they're not gonna tell you that. They're gonna close you at that first payment, right? You know how this works. They're gonna close you at the first payment, and then you're gonna go into the office, and if you have an 84-month loan that you're gonna be making minimum payments on, you need those products. You need the warranty, and you need the, gap insurance. You have to have it. Now, if you can only afford, a 600 a five $600 payment, this is not the right car, right? You need a different car. So let's add another scenario into this here. So we realize that on the QX 60, the 2022 QX 60, you're paying three $37,000 for the car, and say you're doing that over the 60-month term. But we're going to add a trade in. Okay, say you got to trade your car in, and let's say that it is a 2017 Honda Accord, and let's say the value of the car is 18,000. Okay, or 15,000. That's your trade-in value on the car. And let's say you did the right thing and you financed that one right, and you only owe um, 15. You owe 15,000 on this vehicle. Look what happens to your payment again. Now it goes up. Or not, it stays the same, but let's say that you bought the vehicle right, your payment's not gonna go up, but let's say you did an 84-month on that car, 84-month loan on that car, and say you owe 20,000 on it. So we're rolling negative equity into this next car, and hopefully we can do it, but I mean, over 84 months, you're at a $700 payment, right? So this is how you get into that trap. Don't buy don't shop according to payment, shop according to price, and look and see how it breaks down on the payments calculator. Because if you can afford the car over a car that you can drive for that you're going to drive for 3 years, and you can afford a $700 or 600 $750 payment, you can afford this car. If you can't afford you can't afford this car if you are doing over you need 84, 72, or 84 months, and are on top of that adding all those back end products. You don't need those back end products if you're going to be driving it for a few years. So what do we do then, Brad? What do we do then? Well, we got to find a cheaper car. Well, Brad, I want something newer. I want something newer. What do I do? Okay, so we're going to go on to our shopper here, which is Visor, and we're going to figure out what we can afford. Okay. So 27, yeah, we can't do a $37,000 vehicle. If we can only afford $600 a month, we can't afford a $37,000 car. So we need to find out what can we afford. That's not- What can we afford is a better question. And let's go into. I want something recent, Brad. I don't want something old. 3 years old is the maximum. I want it to still be reliable. Okay, yeah, I get it. So let's go ahead and shop for 2022 and 2023, and we're going to look at some other options that you can go with. So 60 month, remember, is what you want to do. So let's say, okay, we um, can't afford 37,000. But Brad, you know what? I really want to get into something low miles that's recent. I want to get into something that's nice, and is comfortable looking and has some nice options. Okay, yeah, no problem. Let's see what we can do as far as finding a vehicle that we can work with here at the price point you're looking for. So let's see, what can I afford, Brad? That might be a question you might be asking. Hang on one second. Add this. Okay. Okay, so we're going to take a look here at the Nissan Pathfinder. Right now, you can see that there are um, currently a bunch of them for sale with low miles on it. So let's say we're looking for one for right around 50,000 miles. So that's the cool part here is that with this paid service on Visor, I'm able to really narrow this down. So something with 50K roughly in this one too. Okay, so here we have the Pathfinders at a price point between 20 and 25,000. Okay, so here's one that's been at this. This is an SV Pathfinder here. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit bigger SUV. Going to be a little bit bigger SUV that will be able to get a lot. You'll be able to do quite a bit. And this one here, $24,000 is a lot cheaper to finance. You can see that they've had this as high as close to the $30,000. So there's one right here. If you can do one here, that the SV is not the bottom package, as you can see. I mean, it's definitely going to do a lot of what you're looking for. It has the light color interior. That's probably why it's cheap. Third row seating, just like the QX60. So you got third row on this one, automatic, plenty of space, plenty of plug-ins, all that. This one's not going to have leather, but look, I mean, 23,000. Remember, 24,000 for this one. Remember that number. Okay, so let's look at another one closer to the $30,000 range. So here we got here's one for $35,000. We have or 30,000. We have a Pathfinder SL. So this is one with leather. Oops, hang on, bear with me. Okay, we're just going to leave that alone there. But you can see, okay, so 30,000, one with 35,000 miles on it, and you can see it's a nice green color here. Sunroof on this one, clean as a whistle. I mean, we're talking third row seating, leather, nice little display, 36,000 miles. It has one of these backup cameras. So I mean, this one's going to be a lot closer to what you're looking at with the with that to the Infinity. But just to kind of show you how these prices break down. So this is kind of how you figure out what you can afford, right? You got to figure out what you need the car to do. Okay, so I need the car to be newer because I don't want to do a bunch of maintenance on the car. Um, I need the car to fit this particular budget. Remember, it's all on a 60-month loan, or 48-month loan is even better. But when 60 months is the longest you want to be able to figure that out. Um, so here, let's see. Let's go to our back to our car payment calculator here. Pull that up next. Car payment calculator here, and we are going to just kind of plug in the data here. So we're going to start with the $24,000 SB right here. So 2023 Nissan Pathfinder. If I could just learn how to type. Okay, so 2023 Pathfinder SV, and we're asking 24,000 on that one. And let's say that you are trading in your car, your Accord. It has a trade value of 15,000, and they're going to give you 15,000 for it. And let's see, let's look this up at 60 months here and see what it's showing us. Okay, so yeah, we're under a $600 payment right there. You see, so the SV package realistically is what you can afford. If you can't afford more than $600 for your car payment, this is the car, right? Now, if you were to do the SL package, let's say, and pay 30 for that one, watch what happens to your payment. $706. So yeah, I mean, right now, if you're you're right now at if you can afford a 750 payment, you can afford this car right here at 60 months, as well. If you can afford a $600 payment, you need to go with the SV package. Remember, you can always finance it for longer and make bigger payments on top of your minimum payment. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to be in a situation where if you have to trade out of the car in 3 years for some reason, you don't want to have negative equity on that vehicle. So this is exactly what you would do. The SL, would be really affordable, obviously, compared to the QX60, and the SV would even be more affordable at 24,000. So, when you're talking a low mileage vehicle that has options, maybe it doesn't have leather, but it has all the plugins, all the computers, and everything along those lines for $584 per month. When you view the payment schedule, I might have crashed here, guys. Okay. So reviewing the payment schedule, you can see it's kind of blurry, but you can see it's 13. You're only owing $13,000 on this vehicle by the end of the 3 years. So you trade one in with 60 or 70,000 miles on it, then uh, you're going to be in a much better scenario. You're going to be in a much better situation because you're basically, even if you have a little negative equity, it'd be like $1,000 bucks. You're going to be right there where you need to be, and that way, when you buy your next car, you're not going to have to roll a negative, buy a bunch of back ended products to protect your investment, and do all that. With this, you're buying a 3-year old car. Whoop de whoop. All right. So yeah, basically, to avoid having to buy gap insurance, to avoid having to buy um, gap and an extended warranty, the best option, of course, is to do short term financing on the vehicle. And just keep in mind that engines on these vehicles can be $10, $15,000. I mean, installed sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, but it's not a light amount of money. Transmissions are the same, right? That's why they offer the extended warranty because you just don't know what's going to happen at the end of within that. So if you're going to be forced into driving this thing longer than 3 years, you're going to want to potentially consider that as well because once you're rolling in negative and buying a bunch of back end products, you're going to have a pretty high balance on there. And if you have a problem with that car within 36,000 miles, you would have some coverage with that. So, make sure you're buying what you can afford. Don't buy what you can't afford because it's a nightmare trying to fix that problem. I had clients that, and I warn them all of them. I warn all of them. Ones that buy S-Class Mercedes and buy one that's a few years old and thinking they're getting a great deal on a car, but what they're forgetting is they're fixing $120,000 car. And when something goes wrong on that car, it's going to cost a big, big amount of money. I mean, I've seen service bills for Mercedes Benz on just a CLK. I'm seeing them in the $3,000 to $4,000 range just to take it in and get a couple things done. It's like $500 to use the bathroom at a Mercedes dealership. So it's nice because you're going to get the nice cookies and the nice coffee and all that. They're going to bring it out to you, but don't trap yourself. Don't trap yourself. That's why when you're shopping for cars, you want to make sure that you're shopping for basically for cars that are within your budget. Can you buy a nice car? Say, Brad, I don't have 30 or 40, $20,000 to buy a car. I want to buy a car that's really nice. What can I buy? Well, there's some sleepers out there, but remember that if you're looking for reliability, you're looking for luxury. Infinity, Lexus, and Acura are going to be your best options. Don't fool yourself in thinking that you're going to be in a good position buying a BMW or a Mercedes for $10,000. They don't exist. You buy that car for 10 grand, knowing that you are going to put 5 or 8 or 10 grand into it every single year when you take the car in to get it serviced. Mercedes, that are old need a lot all the time. So just keep that in mind. Like if you're looking for something that's going to not necessarily hit you too hard on the wallet, Toyota and Toyota and Lexus are going to be your best options. Toyota, Lexus are the best. Then it would be Acura, Honda, and then probably Infinity. There's some Nissans that are good, but I don't like the CVT transmission very much, and that's what usually are going to find in the Nissan that are more recent. That's why I'm not a big fan of them. So let's see. Let's pop up some. Brad? I've got 10 Gs. What can I buy for 10 Gs? Let's take a look. So we're going to pull up Visor here. Visor is the go-to for the where to see the market vehicles right here. You can look up everything on this site here. So when you pay a little extra, you can look for everything at once. And that's what we're going to do here. Okay. So we're not even going to waste our time looking at brands that aren't reliable. But so that's why we're going to narrow it down to just the ones that I mentioned. Brad, I want a luxury. What can I afford in a luxury brand that's going to be reliable at $10,000? It gets harder, guys. I mean, 10,000 pandemic, and now it's really gotten a lot tougher. So let's say here we're going to go in, and so we've got those three added in here, and we're going to look between uh, $0 and $10,000 for these models here. What can we buy? So now we've narrowed it down to about 11,000 vehicles that we have nationwide. Let's take a look here. Okay, so you can see the Acura right here. Here's an Acura TL 2005 with 76,000 miles on it for 10 Gs right here. That's a nice car. I mean, that's a nice car. It has a 3.2 liter V6, which is a juggernaut. This thing has under 100,000 miles. So I mean, this is definitely an example of a good, solid luxury car, one that you can mod, by the way. Like, look at that leather inside this thing. I mean, it's in great condition. So this is one, you got 5 grand cash. You want to finance 5 grand of it. You can do a car like this. Your payment would be about nothing. You pay it off in less than a year, and you got a car that you could drive for as long as you do the routine maintenance. You can drive it for another 125,000 miles. This car has got a lot of life left in it. At least on paper, right? There's no guarantees with used cars. But you can see here that there's just a lot of them here. A lot of Acura that you see here in that range. Let's break it down according to price. Okay, let's look at ones that are low mileage. Okay, so here's a few of them that are low mileage between that are right around the $4,000 range. Here's an Acura TSX base 2008. Oh yeah, this one needs. It looks like it needs a headlight, or it looks like it needs more than a headlight. But it is low miles. It's only 64K. It needs a rear clip, but I mean, yeah, yeah. So we got to go up a little bit. Here's an Infinity right here with 77,000 miles on it. A G35 Infinity, 3.5 liter V6 right here. This one's going to be one that I don't even know if they would have that still. But again, you're seeing where the prices were last year and before. Here's one right here, a 1993 Lexus LS right here with 75,000 miles on it. So this is more of like a classic vehicle, right? But really a tremendous looking car. If you like the gold color, it has a nice sunroof. Going to be, again, super reliable car, 200, 300, 400,000 miles that people are getting out of this one. And this one's a classic, right? This is one that you can buy for $5,000 and you can sell it for $5,000 at least when you sell it with 150 or 200,000 miles on it. So, the Swedish imports, great job. They have some nice inventory. We're going up the ladder here. Here's some other low mileage options here. Here's a 2000 Lexus ES 300 right here with 75,000 miles. That's a super nice, again, a classic car, a $300,000, 300,000 mile vehicle, one that you can just pack with miles on it. You're out the door. You can probably get it out the door for uh, you know, li- 6 or 7 thousand dollars, depending on what better deal you can negotiate. But you can see here's another Acura TL right here, 2008. This is the last year of this body style of the 3.2. They went to a 3.5 the next year and and they also had a 3.7 on the all-wheel drive in the following year. But you can see tremendous value, tremendous value. That was in North Carolina, Monroe, North Carolina, Team LJ Auto Sales. Okay, let's see. Here's a 2004 Infinity I-35. This one would be another example of one that would be a little older car, but still super low mileage, super reliable vehicles built with the 3.5 liter V6 from Nissan, which is a great engine. Do the proper maintenance on a car like this, you get 100,000 to 200,000 miles out of this car. Yeah, so I mean, they're out there, guys. I mean, you've gotta look and shop for looking for a 5 grand car. You got to really look hard, but they are. You can. I mean, I'm finding them right. Here is a Lexus SC 430. Says it has one. Oh, this one's at the where they have the beat up cars. All right, we're gonna go back up here to. All right, so here is a 2002 Infinity Luxury I-35 Luxury with 71,000 miles on it. They want 7,000 for this car. Um, so we're still well under 10,000. We're still low on mileage. These are definitely survivors. Here's a J30 Infinity right here with 63,000 miles on it. It's a 95. That's already kind of a classic, right? I mean, it's 7 grand for a car that you can put another 100 plus thousand miles on. Not a bad deal. Um, Here is now I'm starting to see some more G35s in here. There's a G35 with 83,000 miles on it for